On this earth, some people make a habit of speaking rudely and harshly, believing that if they are verbally dominant, others will fear and respect them. However, words once uttered are like arrows released from a bow. They cannot be retrieved. Each vulgar word weighs down the heart. Each cutting remark causes affections to fade. A person who understands the Dharma is always careful with their words, for they know that words are karma. And karma from the mouth can cause misfortune or create blessings. A polite person does not speak hastily or impulsively, does not make sarcastic remarks while laughing, nor allows a hot temper to guide their thoughts, thus losing the purity of their speech. Before opening their mouth, they always consider carefully, for speaking too directly can easily hurt, and arguing or blaming only causes more trouble. Life already has enough challenges. Let us not add more burdens to people's hearts with arrogant and forceful words. Speaking gently and harmoniously, even in anger, is the true character of one who knows how to live. Humility and gentleness are the roots that nourish a beautiful soul, and also a mirror for others to admire us. The ancients taught that sweet words penetrate to the bone. A kind word can open a door in another's heart, bringing them comfort, support, and transformation. Conversely, just one moment of anger, uttered in harsh words, can bring misfortune upon oneself. The more easily angered one is, the louder one speaks, the harder it is to achieve great things. Everyone in life has their own self-respect and sensitivities. Therefore, when offering praise or criticism, we must be extremely tactful and discreet. Praise must be timely and appropriate, so that the listener does not feel embarrassed, and also does not provoke envy or jealousy from those around. Criticism must be even gentler, rooted in compassion, so that the person receiving feedback does not feel their honor is damaged. The ancient sages taught that acting with kindness brings deep and abundant merit. Acting harshly causes merit to diminish. One's manner of speaking is a reflection of one's heart in daily life. If we know how to behave with moderation, maintain a graceful demeanor, and speak elegantly and clearly, others will naturally hold us in high regard. Conversely, if we gossip excessively, scrutinize others' lives, say one thing but mean another, or enjoy arguing to win, we only exhaust ourselves. The Responsive Buddhist Teachings channel reminds us that the more you win, the more resentment you gain. If you lose, you can't sleep peacefully. If you want peace, let go of the need to win or lose. Because in this life, there is truly nothing worth contending for at all costs. The wise always choose silence. The compassionate always choose tolerance. Speaking a gentle word lightens a part of the mind's burdens. Instead of bickering back and forth, let us practice speaking kind words, replacing a moment of anger with a Buddha chant, so the mind may be at peace. Life is but a brief journey amidst impermanence. One moment young and strong, the next gray-haired. This body is born, then grows old, weak, sick, and finally returns to the earth. Only by understanding the truth of impermanence do we see that resentment, competition, and craving are all as light as clouds in the sky. One who knows how to live is one who sees through the fragility of human existence to cherish every moment they have. That is why the Buddha taught that contentment is wealth. Contentment in every word we speak. Contentment in every desire we hold, so that the mind is no longer dragged away by craving. Many people live their whole lives with an empty heart because they constantly chase after external things, believing that the more they have, the happier they will be. Yet, there are people who are infinitely peaceful in heart, with just a meal of vegetables and an old shirt. It turns out that happiness is not in what you grasp, but in your heart. Let us ask ourselves once, why do we suffer more the more we want? Why do people who live simpler lives smile more easily? Why does just letting go a little, lightening up a little, being content a little, make the heart feel serene? Perhaps it is because, deep down, each of us is seeking peace. But not everyone knows that the door to peace always lies within the Buddha's teachings. Just a contented mind, and life immediately becomes light. Just reduce craving a little, and happiness will bloom like a flower in the wind. There are philosophies in life that seem simple, but contain the power to help people change their destiny. In Buddhist teachings, the word contentment is regarded as a precious jewel, an invaluable asset whose worth not everyone recognizes. Humans are born with nothing and return with nothing. All that we hold in life is temporary. Even this body merely borrows earth, water, wind, and fire to exist. Understanding this, one sees that all human desires are, in the end, just a pursuit of illusions. Yet, most people forget this, then plunge into a race for money, fame, and status. The more they cling to, the more restless their minds become. Only when exhausted do they suddenly ask themselves why they are not happy, when seemingly lacking nothing. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering lies in craving. Craving is not just a desire for wealth, but a lack of contentment, always demanding more than others, wanting without knowing where to stop. People often make themselves suffer because of desires. The greater the desire, the greater the disappointment. One who has 1 wants 2. One who has 2 wants 10. One who has 10 wants 100. And so, they never feel content. The Buddha taught that contentment is true wealth. A person with a contented mind, even with little, can smile. A person lacking contentment, even with much, still feels regret. Wealth and poverty, therefore, are not in the amount of assets, but in the human heart. In current life, everyone is under a lot of pressure. Workers worry about daily meals. Young people worry about an uncertain future. Business owners worry about losses and competition. Parents worry about raising their children well. Officials worry about keeping their positions and reputation. No one is without worry. And the more worries one has, the more easily one falls into a state of unease. Life already has many troubles, yet people add more burdens to themselves through comparison, by seeing what others have, and then criticizing themselves for not measuring up. But who knows that many seemingly wealthy people live in constant anxiety, losing sleep every night for fear of losing what they hold? There is a very good saying from the ancients that happiness does not come from what you have, but from how you appreciate what you have. This is true for all walks of life. An ordinary family, eating simple meals, wearing plain clothes, but with a home full of laughter, is still happier. Many wealthy people live in coldness. Happiness is sometimes just a deep sleep, a delicious meal, a relaxed afternoon, a loving word from a family member, a moment of peaceful breathing. The more one understands life, the simpler one lives. Simplicity is not poverty, but living lightly, without the burden of desires weighing on one's shoulders. The Buddha taught that contentment is not about abandoning all desires to become lazy. Contentment is not letting desires master oneself. It is knowing when to stop at the right time so as not to become a slave to money and fame. A contented person can still strive, still work tirelessly, but their mind no longer considers results as everything. They strive to live well, but without suffering. When adverse conditions arise, they are happy with what they have instead of only looking at what they lack. A contented mind helps us look at life with compassionate eyes. A contented person does not envy those wealthier than themselves. They are not disheartened when seeing friends succeed. They also do not feel tormented when hearing others talk about their affluent lives. Because a contented person understands that everyone has their own karma. They have their own path and do not need to compare. They do not need to contend to win or lose. Everyone is born carrying a bag of karma and blessings. Those with much merit live more favorably. Those with less merit must endure hardships. So instead of comparing, a contented person spends time sowing merit for themselves, doing good deeds, and living righteously so that their life may be peaceful. In the teachings, there is an allegorical story, very simple, yet containing a profound lesson about contentment. It is the story of the beggar's bowl, a poor beggar whose only possession was a clay bowl. He always carried the bowl with him and regarded it as his companion. One day, he met a wealthy merchant passing by. The merchant was dressed in splendid clothes, wearing gold on his hands and jewels on his chest. He walked along, boasting that he owned a lot of gold, silver, houses, and land. The beggar looked at him with gentle eyes and said that he was truly blessed to have so much wealth to live affluently. The merchant held his head high, showing pride. After a while of conversation, the merchant asked the beggar why he wasn't sad or worried despite being so poor. The beggar smiled gently and replied, "I only have this clay bowl, so there's nothing to fear losing." He placed the bowl down, lay in the open, and immediately fell asleep right there. The merchant looked at the scene, bewildered. He said, "No matter how rich I am, I can't sleep at night. For fear of losing my gold, fear of being robbed, fear of being deceived, fear of losing my reputation." The beggar opened his eyes and looked at the merchant, his voice as calm as if stating an obvious truth. One who has much is not necessarily at peace. One who has little is not necessarily suffering. The beggar continued, saying that his chipped bowl gave him good sleep, while the merchant's chests of gold stole his sleep. Then he closed his eyes and continued to sleep. The merchant stood there amidst his wealth, and his heart suddenly became empty. That story makes us realize that all suffering does not come from circumstances, but from the human heart. When we are not content, no matter how much we have, we feel a lack. When we are content, even with little, we feel peace. The Buddha once taught that a contented person is always wealthy. Material wealth, no matter how much, will eventually run out. Only contentment in the mind is something that never runs dry. People who live simply are not doing so because they cannot have more, but because they understand that the more one has, the more easily one worries. They choose lightness instead of heaviness. They choose peace instead of greed. Modern people suffer for many reasons. Young people suffer because they cannot keep up with societal expectations. Working people suffer from financial pressure, having to chase wages. Burdened with family, the elderly suffer from loneliness and fear of illness. Everyone has their own worries. But looking closely, most of that suffering stems from the word want. Wanting more money, wanting more love, wanting more recognition, wanting more respect. As soon as the word want appears, comparison, inferiority complex, self-doubt, and envy immediately follow. The Buddha taught that a contented person feels joy even lying on the ground, while a discontented person finds it hard to sleep even on a soft mattress. That is an undeniable truth. A contented person does not criticize their poor family, their spouse's shortcomings, their aging parents, or their own inadequacies. They see everything with eyes of compassion. When contented, people respect what they have. When contented, people live each moment fully, instead of chasing unfulfilled illusions. A man once complained, "Why doesn't my life improve?" He worked hard, but always felt a lack, and always envied those who had more. He said that every time he heard friends talk about luxurious trips or promotions, his heart was filled with worries. One day, he came to talk to a teacher. The teacher asked him, "Can you still eat 3 meals a day?" He nodded. The teacher then asked if he had a place to sleep, sheltered from sun and rain. He nodded. The teacher asked, "Do you have anyone who loves you?" He paused, then nodded. The teacher smiled and said that, in that case, he already had enough of the most precious things in life. The rest are just secondary things. If you keep using secondary things as a measure of happiness, you will never feel content in life. The man awoke as if from a dream. He realized that contentment doesn't make him lose to anyone, but makes him victorious over himself. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught that a contented person feels joy even lying on the ground, while a discontented person feels dissatisfaction even in heaven. This shows that the root of peace does not come from circumstances, but from within. Merit is important, but a peaceful mind is the determining factor. A contented person is like a small cup that is always full of water. A discontented person is like a large cup that is never full. The more they want, the more they feel a lack. The more they compare, the smaller they feel. Only by turning back to recognize one's true value and appreciating what one has can one escape the whirlpool of craving. Many people ask how to practice contentment. Actually, the method lies in very simple things. First, we must learn to look within ourselves. Don't let your eyes always look outwards, and forget that happiness is decided within your heart. When you see others succeed, learn to congratulate them instead of envying. When you feel lacking, remember that you still have many things others long for. When work is tiring, remind yourself that as long as you have health, you still have opportunities. When there's a little discord in the family, remember that many people yearn for a home to return to. Contentment doesn't mean stopping. Contentment is stopping the greed in your heart. A contented person still progresses, still does good work, still strives to improve, but does not trade inner peace for trivial things. They understand that all results arise from karma. If they act rightly, they are at peace. If they sow good deeds, they receive good results. No need to contend, no need to seize, no need to win or lose. Living kindly is a form of merit. Living contentedly is a form of wealth. When a day closes, a contented person can sigh with relief and feel peaceful. They are not bothered by what they have lost. They do not regret what they have not achieved. They simply need today to be complete and peaceful. But a discontented person, even if they owned the whole world, would never feel joy. They waste their lives thinking of ways to achieve more, forgetting that life is lived only once. Only when their hair turns gray, their body ages, and their strength weakens, do they realize that happiness has never been far away, but right within their own heart. Therefore, the greatest lesson that the story of the beggar and the merchant leaves us with is awakening. We don't need to give up everything to be called simple. We just need to let go of superfluous desires. Life is very short. Money, fame, status, nothing can be taken with you when you die. Only a peaceful mind and good merit follow us always. To have a peaceful mind, one must be content. To be content, one must learn to look deeply into the nature of life. And when we truly understand contentment, we will realize that happiness has never left us. It is right there in the smile of parents, in the eyes of children, in a family meal, in a moment of peace. When we sit and listen to our breath, happiness is the simplicity of the mind. Contentment is the key that opens the door to peace. There are things in life that, each time we think of them, remind us of the fragility of human existence. In Buddhist teachings, impermanence is always seen as a wondrous truth, not to make us pessimistic, but to make us mindful. One who understands impermanence lives lighter. One who clings to impermanence suffers more. Impermanence is like breath, present in every moment, yet few realize it. Every morning, we open our eyes and see the sun. Many people think this is normal. Yet, how many people who were breathing last night did not wake up this morning? Every meal we eat with loved ones, many people think it's a given. But who knows when that meal will become a memory? Life is like a wisp of wind passing through the palm of your hand. You can't hold it, but you can feel it. One who knows how to feel it cherishes it. One who doesn't realize it lets life pass by unconsciously. In impermanence, the Buddha shows us that everything in life arises from conditions. A green leaf does not appear by itself. It needs soil, water, sunlight, and countless other conditions. Humans are the same. This body is born thanks to the confluence of countless favorable conditions. Mother gives us form. Father gives us stature. Society gives us environment. Karma gives us a place to exist. Nothing is solely ours. This body is also just borrowed from earth, water, wind, and fire. One day, when the conditions dissipate, it returns, like a tree that sheds its leaves when the season ends, like a river that must eventually merge into the great ocean. Understanding this, we see that there is nothing in life worth clinging to the point of suffering. Yet people often suffer from being held back. We know everything changes, but still cling stubbornly, as if it will last forever. A loved one can leave us on a beautiful day. A job we've had for 10 years can be lost with just one decision by someone else. A once healthy body can fall ill before we can react. Impermanence is always there, without warning, without asking permission. It comes like the wind blowing through a window. Those who cling too tightly suffer. Those who open their hearts feel lighter. Someone once said that the greatest suffering in life is holding on to things that cannot be held. That is the state of mind of many people. Some are exhausted with pain over a past relationship because they do not accept that all karmic connections eventually unravel. Some resent losing a job, status, or reputation they have been attached to for years because they think these things guarantee happiness. Some grieve because a loved one departed too soon, because they forget that departure is an essential part of human existence. But if we look deeply into Buddhist teachings, we will see that impermanence is not something to fear, but a reminder to live more fully. The Buddha once taught that the body of 4 elements is a temporary aggregation. It is made up of earth, water, wind, and fire. When all things are in harmony, this body exists. When one of the 4 elements weakens or becomes imbalanced, illness arises. When all 4 elements disintegrate, humans depart from the mortal realm. A simple truth, yet it makes a person who understands the Dharma live more at ease. Knowing that this body is merely a vehicle, we will not let the trivialities of the world cause us more suffering. The more we worry about it excessively, the more we cling to the appearance of youth and health. The more easily we will be heartbroken when they change. An elderly person once said that youth makes people think they are immortal. Because they think they have a lot of time, they waste it on resentment, arguments, competition, and vying. Only when precious things are lost do people sigh, wondering why they didn't live more simply, love more, and feel lighter in heart. That is impermanence. It does not take away our happiness. It only takes away our illusion of permanent existence. The real loss is the mind's refusal to accept change. The Buddha once taught a very profound story to a king, using the image of a turtle as a lesson. He recounted that in a forest lived a turtle that sought food every day. Its body was slow, its gait heavy. But the turtle had a great advantage. Whenever danger approached, it simply retracted its head and limbs into its hard shell. Thanks to that, it always escaped death. The Buddha told that story to teach the king that when encountering dangers from the 6 sense objects, from greed, anger, and delusion, from the temptations of life, we too must know how to withdraw the mind inward. Do not chase external scenes. Do not let eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind be drawn by the world. The turtle's shell is protection, while the human's shell is mindfulness. The turtle doesn't run fast. It isn't as strong as a tiger, not as agile as a monkey, not as sharp as a bird of prey, but it lives long because it knows how to protect itself. Practitioners of Buddhist Dharma are the same. There is no need to be exceptionally intelligent or overwhelmingly powerful. Just by knowing how to guard the mind, observe precepts, and protect the 6 senses, one can avoid many disasters. Sometimes, wisdom is not in reacting quickly, but in the ability to know when to stop at the right time. A turtle facing danger retracts itself, while a human facing danger often reacts by attacking or fleeing. But sometimes, it is precisely by withdrawing the mind that one saves oneself from troubles. That is the wisdom the Buddha wished to impart. When people encounter impermanence, they are often swept away by emotions. A loss brings us disorder. A change causes us confusion. A separation makes us suffer to the extreme. But just as the turtle knows how to retract its head into its shell, we can also withdraw our mind to our breath, return to ourselves. All storms will pass. Only those who know how to guard their mind stand firm amidst the tempest. Many Zen masters have said that the human mind is like the ocean. The ocean is sometimes still, sometimes turbulent, but the seabed is always peaceful. Humans suffer only because they let the surface water become agitated, forgetting that the seabed lies deep beneath those waves. The impermanence of life is like the wind blowing across the sea. But if we can keep our mind calm, the wind cannot harm us. Impermanence does not create suffering. It is human attachment to these impermanent things that is the root of suffering. People often think that what they have will never be lost. We think loved ones will always be with us. We think the job we have will always be stable. We think our health will never decline. But then there are days when, in just an instant, everything changes. When that happens, those who don't understand impermanence collapse. Those who understand impermanence know that it is a law. They hurt, but are not desperate. They are sad, but do not complain. For they know that life is a continuous flow. Coming and going are both a part of life. The teacher once taught a student suffering from the loss of a loved one that impermanence is a miracle. The student asked in surprise, "How can loss be called a miracle?" The teacher replied, "Impermanence reminds us to cherish every moment. If everything were permanent, we would live blandly, carelessly, and not know deep love. It is precisely because we know loved ones can leave us at any time that we cherish them in every moment they are present. It is precisely because we know youth does not last forever that we dare to live fully. It is precisely because we know health does not last forever that we know how to preserve our body and mind. Impermanence makes ordinary things precious. It makes life more worth living. Impermanence also helps us let go of things that no longer belong to us. When a person leaves our life, they do not take away our happiness. They only carry with them their part of the connection. When a job ends, it does not close the door to our life, but only opens another direction. When a dream does not come true, it does not erase our future, but helps us understand the right path to take. People always like to control, but impermanence is a reminder that we cannot control everything. Some things are born to come and go. We can only accept and let go gently. In Buddhist teachings, understanding impermanence is not only to reduce suffering, but also to develop wisdom. One who understands impermanence does not fear loss. They know that every change can become an opportunity for growth. When we hurt, that is when we understand our own heart more deeply. When we lose something, that is when we understand what true value is. When we witness the fragility of human existence, we will know how to live more compassionately. No one knows how much time they have left. Each day that passes is one less day. If we keep waiting for a day when there is no sadness, no pressure, no worries to live happily, then we will never have the opportunity in this lifetime. Impermanence is a reminder for us to live right in the present moment. Quoting a sutra, the The Buddha once said that to be born human is as difficult as a blind turtle encountering a floating log in the vast ocean. This reminds us that being born human is an extremely precious thing. If we understand that a human birth is difficult to obtain, and to encounter the Buddha's teachings is even rarer, we will know how to live worthily of that karmic connection. Since a human birth is so difficult to obtain, why do we let trivial matters trouble us? Why do we let gossip from others cause us suffering? Why do we let petty disputes keep us from sleeping? Tomorrow has not come. Yesterday is gone. Only the present truly belongs to us. If we grasp the present, impermanence is no longer a fear. In modern life, many people lose their peace because too many things pull them away from themselves. Phone notifications, busy work, pressure to succeed, financial worries, societal competition, these make the human mind feel like it's constantly racing. People forget that no matter how fast one runs, one cannot outrun impermanence. Sometimes, just sitting down for a moment, taking a deep breath, and looking within oneself can make the heart feel lighter. When we realize our mind is being pulled away, we just need to return, like a turtle retracting its head into its shell. That is how we protect our 6 senses. When the eyes see something unpleasant, recenter mindfulness. When the ears hear insulting words, keep the mind calm. When the mouth wants to speak hurtful words, pause for a moment. When the body is tired, let it rest. When delusive thoughts arise, recognize them and let them go. Many people think that whether life is light or heavy depends on circumstances. But in reality, the lightness or heaviness lies in each person's mind. Some people live in a small house, eating vegetable meals, yet feel utterly lighthearted. Some live in a mansion, eating delicacies, yet their heart is always heavy. Some walk in the rain and feel joyful because they are alive. Some sit in a luxury car and are still sad because they have no one to share with. The mind is the root of happiness or suffering. If the mind is peaceful, all scenes are peaceful. If the mind is agitated, even beautiful scenes turn sad. Impermanence reminds us that human life is just like a dream. Today, it is here. Tomorrow, it can change. But instead of fearing, let us see impermanence as a friend who reminds us to live fully, a friend who gives us courage to let go, a friend who helps us appreciate every glance, every smile, every simple moment. When we understand impermanence, we will no longer waste time on useless things. We will not cling to resentments. We will not postpone loving someone. We will not hurt others out of a bit of ego. We will not let our hearts be filled with heavy things. When we understand impermanence, we will know how to live each day fully with serenity. Human life is like a flower, blooming under the sun, changing a little each day, leaving no trace, but leaving meaning. Impermanence teaches us that the beauty of life lies in that change. A child grows up, an adult ages, a seed sprouts into a large tree, a leaf grows, and then withers. That is the natural flow of all things. If we know how to live along that flow, we will be much lighter. And impermanence helps us understand that true happiness lies in knowing when to stop. Stop the mind when it chases regret. Stop the heart when it chases craving. Stop anger when it flares up in the chest. Stop fear when it clouds reason. Stop to look deeply within. When the mind stops, wisdom arises. When wisdom arises, peace appears. Sitting in the quiet of an evening, perhaps each of us has wondered why, in the same situation, some people are at peace, while others suffer. Also, with the same words, some listen and gently let go, while others hold on to them and grieve for months. With the same daily event, some see it as just a small bump and move on, while others see it as a storm lashing their heart. Ultimately, we realize that happiness or suffering truly does not come from life's events, but from the mind observing the events. When the mind is clear, life is clear. When the mind is virtuous, blessings naturally come. But when the mind is hot-tempered, full of irritation and unease, no matter how many external things one has, the heart still does not feel light. From ancient times, sages have always reminded us that human life is inherently a sea of suffering, because the human mind still has many entanglements. In every step of life, we often hope that everything will happen according to our will. People must behave exactly as we expect. Circumstances must align with our desires. But rarely does life unfold exactly like that. When reality doesn't go as desired, the mind begins to stir. A little anger, a little hurt, and then those streams of thought just grow within the heart. People call these the winds that create waves, and in Buddhism, they're called unwholesome thoughts that create karma. What makes us tired is not life's events, but allowing negative thoughts to drag us away. A person with a virtuous mind is one who knows how to stop before these thoughts flare up into a storm. According to the Buddha's teachings, the mind is the root of all actions, all words. If the mind is wholesome, life is wholesome. If the mind is unwholesome, everything becomes complicated. A person is not unkind because they intentionally do bad things, but because they are led by emotions, not mindful enough to clearly see the nature of the problem. If the heart is still full of anger, words will be heavy and actions hasty. Conversely, a kind heart is like clear water. When someone throws a pebble into it, the ripples quickly settle. Many people go through life without ever bothering to look back at their own mind. They think that the reason they suffer is because others are not good, because life is unfair, because things change. They rarely accept that it is the reactions within their own hearts that make them tired. An angry person often lives very intensely. When a small thing happens, their mind immediately flares up. That fire burns them before it burns others. The Buddha taught that anger is like holding a burning coal to throw at someone. The one holding the coal is the first to burn their hand. Some people say that they are hot-tempered. One said, "It's over." They see it as an unchangeable trait. But in reality, anyone can become gentle if they are willing to look within. Gentleness is not weakness. Gentleness is the strength of self-control. A gentle person has a calm mind, knowing clearly that emotions are arising, but not giving in to them. They are like a person rowing a boat in a whirlpool, knowing when to brace the oars, when to maintain balance so as not to be swept away. In modern life, people face more pressure than in the past. Work makes us tired. Earning a living makes us worried. Relationships make us sad. These pressures easily make the mind hot-tempered. Just one contrary word makes us offended. Just one insensitive act makes us angry. At that moment, we think that others are hurting us, but in reality, it is the reacting mind that causes the pain. A gentle mind is like a soft armor that helps us not be easily hurt by the small bumps of life. When looking deeply into family relationships, we will see how important a gentle mind is. A hot-tempered husband can make his wife and children afraid. An easily irritated mother can make her children distant. An impatient child can sadden their parents. But when gentleness is present in every word and action, the home becomes a safe haven. No need to be perfect, just gentle, and peace will naturally arise. The sutras say that the mind creates heaven and also creates hell. When the mind is clear, life will be like a bright morning. When the mind is dark, life will be like a long night. Therefore, one can practice anywhere. But first, one must cultivate the mind. Cleaning the mind is like cleaning a house. A cluttered house feels stifling to enter. A cluttered mind also feels tiring to live in. To lighten life, one must first lighten the mind. A person who knows how to cultivate the mind is like someone who knows how to tend to their garden. Pull weeds when they are young. Water when the soil is dry, so weeds don't spread. But a person who doesn't know how to cultivate the mind is one who lets weeds cover the garden and then complains why their garden is desolate. To help listeners better understand the responsive Buddhist teachings, channel invites you to enter the following Zen story. One day, a Zen master scooped a cup of water from a stream near the monastery. The water was turbid with mud. He placed the cup of water in front of his disciple and asked, "How can this cup of water become clear?" The disciple immediately thought of stirring it up, filtering it through cloth, or pouring it out and getting new water. But the Zen master just smiled and said, "There's no need to do anything. Just let it be, and the mud will naturally settle to the bottom, and the water will become clear." Upon hearing this, the disciple suddenly understood that the human mind is also like a cup of water. When we are angry, worried, or overthink, the mind becomes cloudy. If we try to resist emotions, the more we resist, the more chaotic it becomes. But when we know how to let the mind settle through breath, through mindfulness, through awakened observation, then the dust of worries will naturally settle. A gentle mind is a mind that knows how to stop, how to let things be how to look deeply. The story is simple, but opens up a great lesson for life. We often want to fix others, fix circumstances, fix things before fixing the mind. But if the mind is cloudy, no matter how clear everything else in life is, we still see life as chaotic. But when the mind is clear, we will look at things more lightly. Sometimes, just pausing for a minute to breathe, to observe the emotions within, we will find ourselves much calmer. That calmness is the foundation of a gentle mind. In Buddhist teachings, gentleness is not just about not harming anyone, but also about mindfulness. A gentle person knows how to observe their mind when anger arises. They recognize it, greet it, then let it go. A gentle person does not let an unintentional remark from another person keep them awake at night. A gentle person does not let a small matter trouble them all day. A gentle person knows how to keep their mind peaceful, like someone shielding a lamp from the wind, always protecting, always striving diligently so the lamp doesn't go out. The Responsive Buddhist Teachings channel reminds us that the Buddha once taught that if you can guard your mind, you can guard your whole life. In the sutras, he said that one who can conquer 1,000 armies on the battlefield is not equal to one who conquers oneself. That shows the immense value of cultivating a gentle mind. No matter how many changes life brings, a person with a gentle mind is not swept away. They're like someone standing on the bank, watching the water flow, knowing the water carries leaves away, but not being carried away with them. When understanding this, listeners will realize that true happiness does not lie in how much we have, but in whether our mind is gentle enough to abide in every moment. If we look back at our weary days, we will see that the times we suffered the most were when our mind was not gentle. We got annoyed with this person. We blamed that person. We hurt ourselves. But when we return to gentleness, naturally, sadness also subsides. That is the power of a gentle mind. It does not make us weak, but makes us steadfast, like a pine tree in the wind. When applied to daily life, listeners can start with very small things. Whenever you are about to say something, pause for half a second to see if that remark will hurt anyone. Whenever something happens, take a deep breath before reacting. Whenever emotions arise, look at them like looking at a cloud. Clouds come and clouds go. Emotions are the same. Nothing lasts forever. We just need to keep the mind free from clinging, and gentleness will naturally arise. Gentleness is the foundation of merit. A gentle person is cherished and respected wherever they go. A gentle person's words make others feel warm. A gentle person living in a house makes the family harmonious and warm. No need to be wealthy. Just a gentle mind makes life much more pleasant. Therefore, in the journey of living simply, living contentedly, the first thing to do is to cultivate a gentle mind. A gentle mind does not make us lose out. A gentle mind is the path to lasting happiness. When the mind is gentle, we naturally know how to let go, how to accept, how to love, how to live like someone who understands the ways of the world. A gentle mind is the root of all actions and the foundation for us to reach peace. If the previous part of life made us tired, the latter part of life can be changed by returning to look at our own mind. When the mind becomes gentle, all suffering will gradually dissolve like mist in the morning sun. Happiness, then, is not something distant, but a feeling of lightness in every breath, every step, every peaceful thought. There is a truth in life that everyone will realize when they have gone through enough of life's ups and downs, that people suffer not from external things, but from what is stored within. External factors are just conditions, but true suffering lies in the mind. If the mind is already burdened with too many heavy things, then even when the sky is clear, the heart still feels dark. If the mind has been colored by desire, anger, and delusion, then even living in abundance, the heart remains empty. The mind is the root of everything we experience in life, and in that mind, the three poisons of greed, anger, and delusion are the most dangerous diseases. In ancient times, when the Buddha was alive, he once taught that among the three poisons, greed is the root of much suffering. From greed comes anger, From anger comes delusion, and from that countless consequences follow. But even after hearing it repeatedly, people still find it hard to avoid. Because greed, anger, and delusion are not something strange, but something present in every daily thought. They are small, silent, but have destructive power, like fire meeting wind. If we don't recognize them early, we will be led by them without knowing. Only when we look back do we suddenly realize that a part of our youth has been dragged away in weariness just because of these three poisonous fears. In modern life, when everyone has to chase after too many responsibilities, greed, anger, and delusion are even more likely to flare up. Greed arises when we see others have something we don't. Anger arises when someone touches our ego. Delusion exists when we mistakenly believe that life is real, the body is real, winning and losing are real. And then these three poisons make us forget that life can inherently be much simpler and more peaceful. If we can learn to reduce greed, reduce anger, and reduce delusion, we will naturally feel lighter, like a lotus petal leaving the mud. Greed makes people lose their integrity. A person who is originally kind, but because they want more than others, becomes devious. Many families that were peaceful are torn apart by greed. Some, for a little immediate gain, sell off all the kindness that nurtured them from childhood. Some, for craving praise, deceive themselves. Some, for craving fame, torment themselves. Greed is like a bottomless pit. The more you pour in, the more it lacks. The more you have, the more you want. The danger of greed lies in the fact that it never gives us a sense of contentment. Greedy people look at life with eyes that don't see happiness. They only see what they don't have, so their hearts are always restless. The more they chase, the more exhausted they become. Anger is the fire that tears families apart. An angry person's words naturally become heavy, their eyes become sharp, their actions become impulsive. Just one contrary word makes them upset and angry. When anger flares up, they forget that the person in front of them also has a heart. They forget family ties, forget years of love, forget the kind things the other person once did. In the moment of anger, they only want to vent their fury, to express their ego. But afterward, they themselves are the ones who suffer the most. Anger is like a whirlwind. It sweeps away all the peace we have painstakingly built. Delusion is ignorance that makes us live a whole life in illusion. Delusion is not clearly seeing the impermanent nature of life. Delusion makes us cling to this body, cling to this name, cling to things that are inherently temporary. Delusion makes us overemphasize meaningless things and forget important things. A deluded person is like someone walking in a fog, thinking they see clearly. But in reality, they are just walking in a dream. Delusion makes us think that hatred is something to hold on to. Winning and losing are something to achieve. Delusion makes us suffer for things that are not worth suffering for. And it is delusion that prevents us from seeing that happiness is very close. That is why the Buddha compared greed, anger, and delusion to three poisonous snakes in the house. A wise person will try to get the snakes out of the house. A foolish person leaves the snakes there, thinking they are harmless. Some people think that they can tame snakes, but then one day the snake bites, and they realize that the poison of greed, anger, and delusion spares no one. Only the awakened are brave enough to look directly at these three poisons and find a way to let go. To help listeners better understand, let's return to the Buddha's story about the three poisonous snakes in the mind. In ancient times, in a small village, there was a man regarded by the villagers as kind. But as years passed, greed in him began to grow. When he saw others' businesses prosper, he began to be envious. He sought ways to deceive, to weigh short, and sell less than promised to earn a few extra coins. From greed, anger arose in him. Whenever he lost out, he easily got angry, venting his anger on his wife and children. From anger, delusion arose. He could no longer distinguish right from wrong. He thought that happiness came from having a lot of money, from having many people follow him. But life didn't go as he wished. The more greedy he was, the more difficulties he fell into. The more angry he was, the more distant his family became. The more deluded he was, the more confused he became. Towards the end of his life, his body and mind deteriorated. He was lonely, sick, and no one cared for him. The villagers pitied him, but also shook their heads, knowing that he had held on to the three poisonous snakes for too long. The story concludes with the teaching that one who holds on to greed, anger, and delusion is like holding three poisonous snakes. If you want to live peacefully, you must let go. If you want happiness, you must know how to expel these three poisons from your mind. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is craving. From craving arise all attachments. From attachments arise suffering. In Dhammapada, verse 251, it is recorded, "Anger is a fire that burns for countless ages. An angry person burns themselves before burning others." In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha taught that delusion is ignorance, a veil that prevents us from clearly seeing the truth of impermanence. The three poisons, greed, anger, and delusion, are three fires. If not extinguished, life will always be uneasy. These teachings are not meant to deter, but to help people understand that if they want peace, they must start from the mind. When deeply analyzing human psychology, we will see that the three poisons do not appear naturally, but are nurtured by circumstances and habits. Greed is nourished by comparison, anger by ego. Delusion is nourished by a lack of understanding of impermanence. When we stop comparing, greed weakens. When we let go of the ego, anger diminishes. When we study Buddhist teachings, understanding that this body is merely temporary, delusion gradually dissipates. Therefore, practice is not doing anything extraordinary, but just mending bit by bit within one's mind. In real-life stories, we will see many clear examples. A family that has everything, but is not happy because the husband is greedy for money and forgets his family. A kind woman becomes miserable because anger accumulates daily. A young person full of aspirations, but soon loses peace because of delusionally pursuing unreal illusions. When sitting and talking, they all say they don't understand why their life has become so heavy. But when looking deeply into the mind, we will see somewhere the shadow of greed, anger, and delusion subtly creeping in. Therefore, to live simpler and happier, we must learn to let go of these three poisons. Letting go is not abandoning life, but simply removing unnecessary things from one's heart. When greed lessens, we appreciate what we have. When anger lessens, we maintain harmony in the family. When delusion lessens, we live more mindfully, seeing clearly what should be pursued and what should be left behind. A simple but effective practice is to look back at your day every night before going to sleep and ask, was I led by greed today? Was I angry at anyone? Was I deluded by anything? Just by recognizing a little each day, your heart will gradually lighten. When the mind is light, life naturally becomes light too. A person who knows how to let go of the three poisons will have a gentle smile, peaceful eyes, and an open heart. They will find that a simple life is a happy life. No need to have much. Just a mind not dragged by the three poisons is enough to live a peaceful life. One who understands the Dharma will realize that happiness is not something sought outside, but the absence of greed, anger, and delusion in the mind. When the three poisons depart, blessings will naturally come. When the mind is pure, life will be gentle. When the heart is virtuous, the world becomes more beautiful. Life is very short. We should not waste our youth and peace to exchange for meaningless things. Let us live simply, slow down, live with a clean and awakened heart. Only then will we fully see the beauty of life that we previously missed because of greed, anger, and delusion. When the mind is at peace, we will no longer be swept away by the whirlpool of winning and losing. We will not chase after trivial things. We will know that every morning we open our eyes, every simple meal, every moment with loved ones are all precious gifts. We will know that true happiness comes from simplicity. And simplicity can only come when the heart is free from those three poisonous snakes. Now, the Responsive Buddhist Teachings channel wishes to convey to the listener that the path to peace is not a path with many fruits, but a path with few toxins. Let go of greed to live easily. Let go of anger to live joyfully. Let go of delusion to live mindfully. Then, a simple life will become a happy life. Sitting down on a quiet afternoon, have you ever felt that human life is not as long as you imagine? Everything comes and goes very quickly. People often say that life is impermanent, but it is only when we experience its ups and downs that we realize impermanence is not something to fear, but a reminder to live lighter. Impermanence is like the sound of wind blowing through a bamboo grove in the evening. Very soft, but enough to make us realize that if we keep the burdens in our hearts, they will only make us more tired. Living simply is not living in lack, but knowing how to let go of superfluous things in the mind. Throughout life's journey, we often get tired not from big tasks, but from small matters that accumulate. A word that saddens us, a glance that makes us ponder, a mistake that leaves us with lingering remorse. These fragments of emotion pile up like pebbles falling into a coat pocket. At first, there are only a few light ones. We think it's nothing. But later, the pocket gets heavier and heavier. We can't walk fast, nor can we go far. The human mind is the same. When we carry too many things in our heart, even small worries, we become exhausted. According to Buddhist teachings, the mind is inherently pure, like a morning lake. But when pulled by delusive thoughts, the mind becomes chaotic. The things that make us suffer often don't come from life's events, but from our own tendency to complicate everything. With the same event, one person sees it lightly, Another thinks heavily. In the same situation, one person nods in acceptance. Another struggles within. The difference lies in how we carry things in our mind. A person who lives simply is one who knows how to put down things that don't belong to them. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha once taught that when the mind carries too many attachments, the body also becomes tired. The more one clings to fame and profit, the more one exhausts oneself. People nowadays live at too fast a pace. Everyone wants to do more, own more, causing their minds to be constantly full of schemes. They open their eyes in the morning, worrying about the day's tasks. They close their eyes at night, still thinking about tomorrow. People fear that if they don't try hard, they will lose out. But it is precisely by chasing after things that they lose the simple moments that create peaceful happiness. When we sit back and observe life, we will realize that there are some things we truly don't need to carry in our hearts. Some people hold on to hurtful words from many years ago, even though the speaker has long forgotten them. Some keep thinking about a small matter they cannot change. Some worry so much they can't sleep just over things that haven't happened. The mind is thus dragged back to the past, and then rushes to the future, never staying still in the present. That is the cause of weariness. Living simply first means learning to look at everything more lightly. People suffer from overthinking. A matter that would be light if seen from one angle becomes heavy if thought about for too long. Sometimes complexity doesn't come from circumstances, but from how we analyze them. We take a small matter and think of it as a big one. We take a small worry and exaggerate it into a vast storm in our hearts. Only when we look back do we ask ourselves why we made ourselves suffer so much. When we know how to reduce thinking, the mind will naturally become simple. In daily life, the manifestations of a simple life are very familiar. One who eats just enough doesn't get sick from overeating. One who sleeps enough doesn't get tired from excessive thinking. One who knows how to let go of toxic relationships finds their mind lighter. One who knows how to speak less when unnecessary avoids many troubles. One who knows how to refuse unsuitable things avoids many worries. Living simply is like living in a clean house. Everything is clear, neat, and our mind feels comfortable entering it. Some people are very meticulous. They want everything to be perfect. They want to please everyone. They want to make no mistakes. But perfectionism keeps their hearts constantly tense. They fear failure, fear losing face, fear being criticized. A person who carries too many fears cannot live simply. And when they don't live simply, their heart always feels heavy. That is the cause of unease. Living simply also doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or giving up. Living simply is being mindful, knowing how to distinguish what is important and what is not. What is important, hold on to. What is not important, let go. In the Perfect Enlightenment Sutra, the Buddha taught that if the mind doesn't cling to phenomena, phenomena don't disturb the mind. That is the spirit of living simply. The world has so many matters, but which ones are truly worth our concern? To help listeners visualize this, let's look at the folk tale about the bag of stones and the traveler. There was a traveler on a long journey. Every time he saw a beautiful stone, He thought it was precious and put it in his bag to carry. At first, the bag was light, and he walked leisurely. But the further he went, the more stones he picked up, and the bag began to get heavy. At one point, his legs were no longer steady. He gasped for breath, exhausted and drenched in sweat. He sat down by the roadside, looking at the bag of stones so heavy it made his shoulders droop. His traveling companion, however, was different. From the beginning, the friend understood that not everything that glitters is precious. He only carried what was necessary. Thanks to this, when both reached the end of the road, the friend was still healthy, while the traveler was exhausted. It was then that the traveler realized that it was precisely the stones he considered precious that had made him tired. If only he had known to discard some from the beginning, the journey would have been much lighter. The worries in the human heart are like those stones. We keep thinking that we have to carry them all. We hold on to old joys and sorrows, unhealthy relationships, desires beyond our capacity, and we carry them without realizing that they are what's making us tired. When we understand this, we will know how to put down things that are unnecessary. And when we put them down, we will find our hearts are much lighter, like a bag of stones relieved of its burden. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught that to lighten the mind, one must observe the breath. When the mind is chaotic, just returning to the breath is enough to calm the mind. The breath is the door that brings us back to the present. If every day, whenever we feel anxious, we just pause and inhale deeply, then exhale slowly, the mind will naturally soften. But people rarely stop. They keep chasing after everything, forgetting the healing power of their own breath. A very easy practice that anyone can apply is, whenever you feel tired, take just 3 deep breaths. 3 breaths may seem small, but if truly focused on, it can pull the mind from a state of instability to peace. Inhale, knowing you are inhaling. Exhale, knowing you are exhaling. That alone is a way of simple living. Living without being pulled to the past or swept into the future is living simply. If you have time, just sit still for 5 minutes each day to observe your mind. No need to force the mind to be still. No need to try to chase away thoughts. Just watch them, like clouds floating in the sky. If you're thinking, know you're thinking. If you're worrying, know you're worrying. When observing like that, the mind will naturally settle. That is what a person who lives simply always does. They know that the mind needs rest. For so many years we have chased after life. But how many times have we stopped to see how tired our mind is? A person who lives simply also knows how to let go of excess emotions. Not everyone deserves our sorrow. Not everything deserves our thoughts. Not every relationship needs to be maintained. Some people pass through our lives just to teach us a lesson, not for us to keep them. To know how to let go is to know how to love oneself. The older one gets, the more one understands that holding too many things in the heart only causes oneself pain. In daily relationships, we should choose lightness to live. Choose gentle words to speak. Choose light thoughts to think. Choose light actions to perform. Because when we are light, life will be light. When the mind is too full, nothing can make us happy. But when the mind is streamlined, everything will become clear. One who understands simple living will know how to accept that we are not always right. Not everyone thinks like us. Not everything will go our way. When we know how to accept, we naturally suffer less. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that the wise cut off the root of suffering by not clinging to meaningless things. A person who knows how to let go is one who truly lives in peace. When we look back at life, we will see that our happiest moments were not when we had a lot of money or many possessions, but when our mind was light. That could be a moment sitting with family, eating a simple meal, but feeling warm in the heart. It could be peaceful mornings listening to birds sing. It could be evenings sitting with oneself, without worries. These moments only come when we live simply. Finally, let me just remind the listener that a simple life is not something distant. Simplicity is just returning to what is truly important. Simplicity is knowing how to put down things that make the mind tired. Simplicity is knowing to release when holding on, to let go when heavy. When the mind doesn't carry too much, we will find this life truly light. To reduce suffering, one must live simply. When living simply, we realize that happiness has never left us. It's just obscured by the things we hold too tightly. This life is as fragile as breath. Every morning we open our eyes, still see the sunlight, still hear loved ones calling us, still have the karmic connection to live one more day. That is already a miracle. When people learn to think about impermanence, knowing that everything changes every minute, every second, we will begin to slow down, soften, listen to ourselves, and listen to others. When looking deeply into that impermanent nature, we deeply realize that a word spoken in anger can create a wound that hurts more than a knife cut. And often, our mind suffers not because someone did something big, but just because of a remark that makes our heart endlessly heavy. There are times when you have tried very hard, endured a lot, wanted to keep peace in your home, but an unintentional word from a loved one is enough to bring tears. There are also times when in a moment of temper, you say something that you later regret. People often suffer because the mouth speaks before the mind thinks. The mind hasn't had time to examine, but the mouth has already spoken. And then, when it settles, one realizes what one has just said. Sometimes it's not what one wanted to say, nor what the other person deserved to hear. It's just because emotions surged too strongly, while wisdom was too weak. The Buddha taught that speech is one of the 3 important types of karma that shape a person's life, alongside bodily karma and mental karma. Verbal karma may seem like fleeting words, but it actually creates karma very quickly, because words are inherently light, easy to blurt out, easy to cause harm without effort. Many families have been in discord for years, just from a few words spoken in anger. Many people hold a grudge for a lifetime because of one insulting word. Many children grow up lacking confidence because they hear their parents argue every day. It's just words, just sounds, but they affect others' hearts so deeply that no one can predict. In this modern life, people are increasingly stressed. Work pressure, the struggle for food and money, relationships, expectations, all make us feel like a string pulled to its limit. When a person is already stressed from within, and then encounters harsh words from another, they can easily break out into greater pain. And when we hurt, we often unintentionally cause pain back with our words. That spiral continues like a toxic current that everyone in the household is swept into. To correctly understand speech, we first need to understand the human mind. People speak more by emotion than by reason. When happy, words are gentle like falling flowers. When sad, words droop like a winter afternoon. When angry, words are sharp like a knife. It's not that human nature is evil, but because people are dominated by emotions. A little unwholesome mind and unwholesome words will immediately blurt out. A mind full of troubles. The mouth will generate troubles. Only when the mind is clear will the mouth be kind. Therefore, the Buddha did not teach to fix the mouth, but to fix the mind. But the journey of mending the mind is a long journey, so before the mind is tamed, the first thing everyone needs to learn is to guard their words. There's a famous story in Eastern tradition that the ancients told to remind their descendants about the weight of words. The story tells of a young boy, hot-tempered, easily angered, and impulsive. One time, in anger, the boy uttered very harsh words that deeply hurt a close friend. When the anger passed, he felt immense remorse. He went to a teacher he greatly respected, hoping the teacher would show him how to correct his mistake, to compensate for the words he had already spoken. The teacher looked at the boy with gentle eyes and asked him to do a very strange thing. The teacher told him to bring a very large cotton pillow. The boy obeyed, running home to get the softest pillow. The teacher then instructed him to tear the pillow open in the middle of the yard and toss the cotton fibers into the sky for the wind to carry everywhere. The boy did as told. In just a few minutes, the yard was full of white cotton pieces flying in all directions with the gentle breeze. The teacher then said, "Now go and pick up all the cotton fibers that just flew away." The boy tried to gather them, but the more he searched, the more hopeless it felt. The cotton had flown everywhere. Some pieces flew onto the roof, some were carried by the wind to the end of the alley, some were caught by the feet of passers-by. He couldn't pick them all up. When he returned, sighing helplessly, the teacher then spoke words that the boy would never forget for the rest of his life. The teacher said to him, "The words you spoke are like those cotton fibers. Once uttered, the winds of life will carry them away forever. You cannot retrieve them anymore. So, before saying anything, think very carefully. Because there are words that take only a few seconds to say, but make others suffer for many years." That story sounds gentle, but contains so many truths of life. Any of us has at times wished we hadn't said that word, wished that at that very moment we had restrained ourselves a little more, wished that we could apologize sooner. But time never turns back. Words once spoken are like an arrow released from the bow, like dust scattered by the wind. They cannot be gathered, cannot be fully undone. In Buddhist scriptures, there is a saying that words are flowers or swords, depending on the speaker's mind. A person with a wholesome mind speaks words of peace. A person with an angry mind, even if their words are only slightly harsh, can turn them into a knife that pierces another's heart. Some people have a habit of speaking negative things daily, thinking they are just speaking the truth, but not knowing that the truth, if spoken at the wrong time or in the wrong way, also creates karma. Harsh speech is considered one of the 4 unwholesome actions of speech that the Buddha always reminded us to avoid. Poisonous words can break family harmony. Insulting words can instill a sense of shame in the listener, causing them to carry that pain for a lifetime. But that very same mouth, if it knows how to use kind and wholesome words, can evoke love, warm others' hearts, heal wounds, and salvage relationships on the brink of collapse. Have you ever experienced the feeling that just one gentle word can bring back so much warmth? If someone just tells you that they understand, they care, you've done very well, you're not alone, then your heart aches half as much. Kind words have a strange power, like water seeping into the earth, like gentle rain refreshing a dry garden. Therefore, one who speaks kind words also sows blessings for themselves, making them more peaceful, their relationships more stable, and their families warmer. One who guards their speech is one who maintains harmony, and harmony is the root of merit in life. People who often speak harsh words are not inherently evil, but because they have suffered much harm, because they don't know other ways to release their emotions. But the more one speaks according to emotions, the heavier the karma, and the more discord it creates in the family. To change this, we must first turn back and examine our own mind. The Buddha taught that before saying anything, pause for a moment. That moment of pausing is when the mind has a chance to look back at emotions. After that, see if the current situation is suitable for speaking. Then listen to whether the person opposite is calm enough to receive it. And finally, consider whether the words you are about to speak will bring peace or cause harm. These 4 steps: stop, look, listen, think. If a person practices them daily, their words will be gentle, like flowing streams, causing no harm, only bringing peace to themselves and others. Looking deeply into life, you will see that families with harmony are often not the wealthiest or most affluent, but homes where people know how to guard their mouths, know to apologize when necessary, know to be silent when angry, know to speak kind words when others are vulnerable. Many people think that words are small and insignificant, but whether a family is peaceful or not sometimes lies in how its members communicate with each other. Many couples deeply in love lose each other just because they couldn't control their words. A little resentment turns into an argument. A little temper turns into estrangement. That's how a single word can ruin a connection. In the scriptures, the Buddha once taught that people should speak truthful words, harmonious words, timely words, and gentle words. He did not forbid speaking, nor did he demand anyone to remain completely silent, but he only reminded that one should speak in such a way that when words leave one's mouth, they cause no harm, but bring benefit. Practitioners often speak less so that the mind has time to reflect. Speaking less is not out of shyness, but because one knows that words are like fire. If not careful, they can easily burn an entire, beautiful relationship. In daily life, everyone sometimes encounters things that trouble them. It could be matters at work, societal issues, financial problems, or children's issues. But do not let these pressures be brought home and vented on loved ones with harsh words. Often, the person closest to you is the one who suffers most from those unnecessary words. They don't want to fight back because they love you, but that doesn't mean they don't hurt. Guarding one's speech is not just to make others feel more comfortable, but also to make oneself lighter. When you practice speaking peaceful words, your mind also becomes gentler. One who doesn't judge has a more open mind. One who doesn't blame has fewer worries. One who doesn't speak negative things daily has a toxin-free mind. Words are like a stream flowing through the inner self. The cleaner the water, the clearer the heart. The muddier the water, the heavier the mind. One of the most effective healing methods in speech is to learn to observe emotions before speaking. When you are angry, try to take a deep breath and then exhale slowly. Just one breath. But the emotion has already softened considerably. When you are sad, don't speak immediately. Give your mind a few minutes to be still. Often, just sitting down and breathing a few times is enough to understand that what you intended to say is unnecessary. And when you want to give feedback to someone, choose words that are easiest to hear. Tactful advice doesn't hurt them, but helps them grow. The more you cultivate your speech, the greater your merit. Because the Buddha said that gentle words create merit very quickly. Through this, we realize that words, though few, have immense influence. Understand that words are karma, and karma can lead us towards wholesome or unwholesome directions. When we speak evil, we plant evil seeds. When we speak kind words, we sow seeds of merit. From now on, every time you want to say something, remember the image of cotton fibers flying in the wind. Ask yourself, are the words I am about to speak necessary? Are they wholesome? Will they hurt anyone? If those words bring no benefit, stop. That stopping is wisdom. And now, the Responsive Buddhist Teachings channel wants to send you a warm reminder that words can be a very powerful healing medicine. Use your mouth to speak words of love to loved ones. Speak words of encouragement to those suffering. Speak words of gratitude to those who have helped you. Speak gentle words to yourself whenever you are tired. When you choose to speak kind words, your mind will become clear, your heart will expand, and your life will be much more peaceful. One who guards their speech is not because they fear others, but because they love others. And one who knows how to love others is also sowing merit for themselves. This life, after all, is an endless stream of changes. Before getting used to one thing, another appears. Before standing firm, storms have arrived. Everyone desires peace, but peace actually lies not outside, but in how we guard our mind amidst life's changes. When we understand the impermanent nature, we realize that all emotions, all events, all joys or sorrows are merely temporary guests passing by. They appear and then go. Nothing stays forever. Seeing that truth, the human heart naturally softens. And when the heart softens, we begin to learn how to protect ourselves from undesirable things. That is when we need to know how to guard the mind like a turtle retracting into its shell whenever external conditions stir up wind and rain. There are days when you think you are very strong. You think you have gone through many storms, so nothing more can hurt you. But just one word from someone, a small misunderstanding, an unkind look, is enough to shake your mind. Sometimes you just want to live a normal life, but life is not as peaceful as you imagine. This person hurts you. That person pressures you. Work makes you tired. Relationships exhaust you. Many people, when insulted, criticized, or misunderstood, their minds flare up like fire. The fire of anger then not only burns your inner peace, but also makes you want to react, to retaliate, to protect your ego with hasty actions. But the more you react, the more tired you become. The more you resist, the more you hurt. The Buddha taught that a practitioner is not one who avoids all unfavorable situations, but one who knows how to guard the mind in all unfavorable situations. One who knows how to guard the mind is like a wise turtle, knowing how to retract its head into its shell whenever danger approaches. The turtle's shell doesn't teach it to hide from life, but is just a place for the turtle to shelter when needed. The human mind is the same. When you know how to turn inward, you will not be pulled by external circumstances. You don't let others control your emotions. You don't let others' anger invade your heart. You don't let inciting words make yourself become someone you don't want to be. In Buddhism, guarding the mind is guarding the most important fortress of one's life. The Buddha once taught that the mind is master. The mind leads. The mind creates. The mind is like earth. All wholesome or unwholesome seeds can be sown in it. If you don't know how to guard your mind, you will become a victim of anger, of greed, of fear, of gossip. But if you know how to protect your mind, you will be able to live amidst life's many storms and still maintain inner peace. Guard the mind like guarding a fortress. That is what the ancients have reminded us for thousands of years. In reality, people often let their minds be influenced by external circumstances more than they think. When someone insults you, you immediately feel blood rushing up, getting angry. When someone says something unfair, you want to react immediately. When life attacks, you want to attack back. That is human instinct. But instinct sometimes pushes us too far. It makes us prisoners of emotion. It makes us do things that later, looking back, we don't understand why we did them. Instinct has never helped anyone find peace. There's a story between a Zen master and a disciple that people often tell to remind them about guarding the mind. The story goes that a disciple had been practicing for a long time, understood the teachings, and knew how to distinguish right from wrong. But there was one thing he still couldn't overcome: anger. One day, while working at the temple, he was insulted by an outsider. The person spoke very harsh words, making his face flush, heart pound, and breath become rapid. In that moment, he wanted to retaliate immediately. He wanted to speak back, to let the other person know that he was not easily bullied. He wanted to prove he was right, and the other person was wrong. He wanted to protect his ego. But before he could step forward, his Zen master stood behind him and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. The Zen master looked at him with eyes full of compassion and asked what was happening to him. The disciple said he was very angry and felt he should retaliate. The Zen master gently shook his head and told him, "Close your eyes." When he closed his eyes, the Zen master said something that stunned him. The Zen master said, "When you are angry, you are no longer yourself. You have become another person. That angry person will do things you don't want to do, say things you don't want to say. So when you're angry, retract your head into your shell, and that shell is your breath." The disciple stood still for a moment, then listened to his breath. At first, his breath was still strong, heavy, and full of emotion. But the more he paid attention to his breath, the more the emotion subsided. The anger that was flaring strongly suddenly subsided, like a fire lacking oxygen. After just a few minutes, he opened his eyes and found everything strangely light. He looked at the person who had insulted him and no longer wanted to retaliate. What he saw was no longer an enemy, but only a person carrying too much suffering in their heart, which is why they spoke unrestrained words. From that moment, he understood that the true strength of a person is not daring to confront others, but daring to confront one's own emotions. And to confront emotions, the first thing to do is to turn inward. The story, though simple, reflects a very profound truth. When people know how to return to their breath, know how to withdraw their mind inward, like a turtle retracting its head into its shell, they will not be swept into the whirlwind of anger and hatred. The breath is the safest refuge. The breath is the door that brings us back to peace. The breath is the link between body and mind. Every time emotions arise, just paying attention to the breath makes the emotions begin to weaken. Because the breath belongs to the present, while anger belongs to the past and imagination. When you return to the present, anger has no ground to stand on. In the scriptures, the Buddha taught much about guarding the mind. He taught that if the mind is not guarded, the body suffers. If the mind chases external scenes, life is uneasy. If the mind rushes after worldly phenomena, troubles arise continuously, like ocean waves. Only when the mind returns, like the wind returning to the sky, like water returning to the ocean, can humans find true stability. Guarding the mind, like guarding a fortress, is guarding the most important stronghold of one's life. If the fortress is left open, anyone can rush in. If the mind is left open, others' words, others' glances, others' competition can all hurt you. Looking deeply into your mind, you will see countless reasons why you are easily agitated. Perhaps you were too tired beforehand, but didn't dare to speak. Perhaps you had endured something for too long, but didn't know how to release it. Or perhaps you carried silent worries in your heart that no one knew about. Then, just a small incident can make your mind flare up. When the mind is not cared for, a small insult is like a drop of water that overflows the cup. When the mind is too full, everything easily makes you react strongly. So, guarding the mind is like cleaning up the house of your own consciousness. When the mind is clean, you are lighter before every challenge. When the mind is covered in dust, you are easily hurt by any impact. Someone asked how to guard the mind against things that make one uncomfortable. The answer lies in daily practice. Guarding the mind is not a one-time task. Guarding the mind is a long journey. A little each day, a little each moment. Every time you feel yourself about to get angry, about to say something unpleasant, about to do something you will regret, stop and breathe. Imagine yourself retracting your head into your shell like a turtle. Within that shell is a stability that no one can touch. Within that shell is mindfulness. Within that shell is yourself, not the angry ego. The breath is that shell. Whenever you are agitated, return to your breath. No need to try to inhale deeply or exhale forcefully. Just know that you are breathing. When you know that you are breathing, your mind immediately returns to the present. Anger will gradually dissipate. Sadness will lighten. Agitation will disappear. You will see things more clearly. You will realize that many things are not worth reacting to. You will understand that life is not always as you want it to be, and the only thing you can control is your mind. In life, the important thing is not how many storms you avoid, but how much peace you maintain amidst the storms. A wise person is not one who is never insulted, but one who, even when insulted, does not allow themselves to become malicious. A wise person is not one who is never angry, but one who knows what to do when angry. A wise person is one who knows how to turn inward. The lesson learned is mindfulness in the face of emotional agitation. Remember that immediate reactions are often the reactions of instinct, not of wisdom. There must be a moment of stopping for wisdom to have a chance to speak. When someone treats you badly, see it as wind blowing into a turtle's shell. If the turtle retracts its head, the wind can do nothing. If you withdraw your mind into your breath, insulting words cannot touch you. The Responsive Buddhist Teachings channel wants to send you a healing message. Everyone has a safe place to return to. And that place is not an external house, but their own mind. Guard the mind like guarding a fortress. Protect the mind like a turtle protects its shell. Love your mind by not letting others control your emotions. And whenever life makes you tired, close your eyes and return to your breath. You will find yourself much more peaceful than you think. In the journey of being human, everyone hopes to live a stable and light life. But looking at reality, we realize that people often complicate their own lives with their own thoughts, actions, and wrong choices. Many people don't know why they suffer. They suffer from work fatigue, suffer from unsatisfactory relationships, suffer from fear of the future, suffer from small things that weigh heavily on their hearts. People seek peace externally. They change their environment, change the people around them, change their assets, but no matter how much they change, they still don't find peace. Because peace inherently lies not outside, but within the mind. If the mind is agitated, even in a quiet place, it feels uneasy. If the mind is peaceful, even amidst the market of life, it feels light. The Buddha, during a conversation with King Bimbisara, taught a simple but profound path for people to free themselves from their suffering. He said that to end suffering, to have a peaceful mind, and to clearly see one's life path, one must practice 3 fundamental things: morality, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, panna. This is not just a teaching for practitioners, but a path for everyone who wants a simple life. Because a simple life is not about reducing material things, but reducing internal chaos in the mind. Morality helps the mind not be agitated. Concentration helps the mind be peaceful. Wisdom helps the mind be clear. If the mind is not agitated, not wavering, not obscured, life naturally becomes light. If we look back at human suffering, we will see that the root of many problems lies in the fact that we go against these principles. When not observing precepts, we easily make mistakes. Mistakes lead to troubles. Troubles lead to remorse. Remorse makes the mind agitated. An agitated mind makes life uneasy. Without concentration, our mind chases from one scene to another. When happy, we are overly joyful. When sad, we drown in suffering. When praised, we are overly pleased. When criticized, we collapse. The mind keeps rushing after the smallest changes in life. How can there be peace when it is constantly chasing after worldly phenomena? When lacking wisdom, we cannot see the true nature of things. We look at life through the lens of illusion. We cling to the false as real, cling to the temporary as lasting, cling to the impermanent as eternal, then suffer when life changes. From ignorance arise countless sufferings. Therefore, morality, concentration, and wisdom are not dogmas, but three keys that open the door to peace. One who observes precepts is peaceful. One who has concentration is steadfast. One who has wisdom is clear-sighted. A simple life is living with these three things in every breath. Not complicated, not cumbersome, demanding nothing beyond the ability to return to oneself. People today often fall into a whirlpool of pressures from which they cannot find an exit. Work makes them stressed. Relationships hurt them. Life makes them afraid. They want to find a way to save themselves, but don't know where to start. Meanwhile, the Buddha's teachings from thousands of years ago still hold their value. Observing precepts is knowing how to protect oneself from harmful actions. Practicing concentration is knowing how to care for one's consciousness from agitation. Developing wisdom is knowing how to look into the essence so as not to be deluded. These three things nurture the soul and bring people back to the simplicity of life. Observing precepts in modern life means upholding the most fundamental principles of being human. Do not speak evil words. Do not harm oneself or others. Do not lie. Do not be selfish. Do not be greedy. When a person observes precepts, their mind is not agitated because they don't have to worry about the consequences of their actions. Those who do wrong must hide. Those who lie must fear the truth. Those who do evil must live in constant unease. It is these anxieties that agitate the mind. But one who observes precepts has a light heart because they don't have to hide anything. Precepts are a fence protecting us from mistakes that lead to suffering. Many people think that observing precepts means being restricted, but in reality, observing precepts is to live more freely. Because freedom is not about doing whatever one wants, but about tranquility in the mind, knowing that one causes no harm to anyone. Concentration, samadhi, is the ability to keep the mind peaceful amidst all changes. When the mind has concentration, one is not easily swept away by emotions. When the mind has concentration, they know how to tap before inciting words. When the mind has concentration, they know how to listen more deeply. When the mind has concentration, they know how to look at things with a calm perspective. In modern life, concentration can start from very small things, such as sitting still for 5 minutes each day, observing one's breath, or simply practicing pausing before reacting. Concentration is the foundation for us not to be carried away by life. A person with concentration slows down their speech, thinks more deeply, their emotions lighten, and life becomes clearer. Concentration is not separating oneself from the world, but maintaining clarity within that world. Wisdom, panna, is the light of discernment. With wisdom, we clearly see the causes of suffering so as not to repeat them. With wisdom, we clearly see the impermanence of life so as not to cling. With wisdom, we clearly see what is afflicting our mind to heal ourselves. Wisdom is not knowledge read from books, but understanding that comes from experience, from deep listening, from mindfulness in every moment. With wisdom, we no longer blame others as much as before. We know that each person carries their own story, their own suffering. Wisdom makes us more compassionate, gentler, knowing how to adjust ourselves instead of wanting to change the whole world. The story of the Buddha teaching King Bimbisara is the clearest evidence of the power of morality, concentration, and wisdom. The story goes that King Bimbisara, who ruled a great kingdom, carried many worries within him. He worried for his people, he worried for his country, he worried about potential wars, he worried about the future of his dynasty. Despite power and wealth, he found no peace. One day, he sought out the Buddha and asked, "How can I cure the chaos in my mind so I can govern the country well?" The Buddha looked at the king with compassionate eyes and said, "To cure the chaos in your mind, you must observe precepts so that the mind is not defiled. You must practice concentration so that the mind is peaceful. And you must develop wisdom so that the mind brightens. Observing precepts is like building a strong fence, protecting a fortress. Practicing concentration is like letting water settle to see the bottom of a lake. Developing wisdom is like the sun shining, making all delusion disappear." The king listened and understood that the root of all chaos in life originates from one's own mind. When the mind is tamed, governing the country also becomes easy. That story has been passed down to this day to remind us that human life requires not only talent or power, but also a steadfast inner self. Many people obsessively pursue success, fame, and money, but forget that what keeps them living peacefully is a healthy mind. When the mind is healthy, wisdom is clear. When the mind is clear, life is clear. When life is clear, every step is light. The lesson here is that simple living is not abandoning everything, but knowing how to guard the mind according to the three elements: morality, concentration, and wisdom. When living with morality, we know the boundary between wholesome and unwholesome, what should be done and what should not be done. With concentration, we know how to guard the mind, not rushing after external scenes. With wisdom, we know how to look deeply into the essence so as not to go astray. Living like that, each day is light, each matter is clear, each step is peaceful. To apply this to life, we don't need to do anything grand. Just practicing a kind word each day is observing a precept. When angry, but knowing how to stop to breathe, is practicing concentration. When looking at one's own faults instead of only seeing others' faults is developing wisdom. Letting go of something that causes suffering is walking on the path of wisdom. Facing adversity without letting the mind become agitated is practicing concentration in real life. If nurtured regularly, these three things will become the foundation to help us live simpler and happier lives. This life is inherently fragile, like breath, making people easily swept into inner turmoil that sometimes they themselves don't understand why they suffer. The external world constantly changes every second, while the internal world is full of endless streams of thoughts swirling up. That is why, the more one grows and experiences, the more one realizes that true happiness is not about life being perfectly complete, but about whether our mind can be light in the face of gains and losses. The Buddha taught that life is impermanent and the mind is restless. Understanding this opens another door for us to look into the true nature of suffering. Most of what troubles us does not come from circumstances, but from our own mental fabrications. The mind chases after thoughts, hence it is uneasy. But when the mind stops, at that very moment, peace is present. Looking deeply into the past, we will see that most suffering does not come from things that truly happened, but from things we think will happen, or fear have already happened. A small remark from someone can make us interpret it into hundreds of meanings, then become sad and angry. A small difficulty in life can be exaggerated into a vast worry. We often draw stories in our heads that are sometimes even more intense than what is actually happening. That is why the ancients said that our own mind is the creator of karma, and also the one that issues us from karma. Because if we just look a little wrongly, we see our whole life as dark. But if we recognize the true nature of the mind, everything becomes clear. According to Buddhist teachings, most of human chaos does not stem from external circumstances, but from the layers of delusive thoughts covering the original pure mind. Delusive thoughts have no concrete form, but possess immense power. They're like a thin layer of clouds obscuring the clear sky beneath. When clouds come, we think the sky is dark. When clouds leave, we realize the sky has never lost its clarity. The Buddha called delusive thoughts the shadow of the mind, because they exist in the head but affect all our emotions and actions. One who doesn't understand the mind is easily led by the mind. But one who understands the mind knows that recognizing delusive thoughts is the first step to letting them go. In daily life, people are very easily influenced by emotions. A word that is unpleasant to the ear can trouble us for an entire half-day. A past event suddenly recalled is enough to keep us awake all night. We often believe that we are suffering because of others, but in reality, most suffering is projected by the mind itself. The mind creates phenomena, and then the mind itself fears the phenomena it created. The more we chase after these thoughts, the more we get lost in the labyrinth of emotions. Only when exhausted do we realize that all are just unreal phantoms. This is something that in Buddhist teachings is called delusive consciousness. Delusive consciousness is false perception, imagination, speculation, and fabrication that cause people to see things not in line with their true nature. When we let delusive consciousness control us, we are like someone looking in a mirror in a dark room, only seeing distorted images and thinking they are real. To help disciples better understand the nature of delusive thoughts, ancient Zen masters often used profound Zen stories. And the story of the meditating student who saw a spider on his chest is a famous story passed down to clearly show how the mind deceives people in every moment. The story goes that a young meditation student diligently practiced meditation. Every day, he sat in mindfulness, breathing steadily and keeping his mind silent. However, one day, while meditating in quiet, he suddenly saw a black spider crawl onto his chest from somewhere. He was startled, but because he was meditating, he tried to remain calm. The next day, he saw the same spider appear again. And the day after, it was the same. Every time he closed his eyes, the spider appeared clearly, feeling so real that he even heard the sound of its legs moving on his skin. This student was frightened and confused. He sought out the Zen master to ask what omen it was. The teacher looked at him without scolding, just said a seemingly simple but profoundly deep sentence. The teacher said that the next time the spider appeared, he should take a small knife and draw a circle around it. The student obeyed, and the next day, during meditation, when the spider crawled onto his chest again, he calmly took a knife and lightly drew a circle exactly following the shape of the spider. He was slow and careful, fearing he might accidentally harm it. When he opened his eyes, what stunned him was that there was no spider in front of him. The only thing he saw was a knife mark imprinted on his own chest. That spider did not appear from outside, but was born from his own mind. In that very moment, he understood that for all those days, he had lived with an illusion created by his own mind. The teacher looked at him and said gently, like a warm reminder, "Master, be careful not to be deceived by the thief." The thief here is no one else but one's own delusive mind. If the mind is not peaceful, illusions arise. If illusions are thought to be real, they make us afraid. That fear further nourishes the illusion. And so, people fall into their own suffering without knowing it. This Zen story is like a mirror for us to reflect on ourselves in daily life. In reality, the meditator's spider is a symbol for the things that cause us worry, unease, and fear. When our mind is full of delusive thoughts, we see unreal things and believe that they are threatening us. When we cling to that, we draw the knife mark on our own mind. The pain does not come from anyone else, but from how we think. 90% of human suffering is created by the mind's imagination. The Buddha taught that all phenomena arise from the mind. Circumstances may change, but the mind's perception of them determines whether we are peaceful or uneasy. In the sutras, the Buddha once said that the mind is the root of all actions. If the mind is pure, phenomena are pure. If the mind is agitated, phenomena are agitated. This sounds philosophical, but is actually very mundane. A joyful person sees lightness everywhere. A worried person sees darkness even when the sky is clear. Events are sometimes very small, but the mind exaggerates them into something very large. A falling leaf can disturb someone's mind if that person is full of fear. Conversely, a great difficulty also becomes light if that person's mind understands the nature of impermanence. The more we understand the mind, the more clearly we see the waves of delusive thoughts so as not to be led astray by them. The story of the meditator and the spider teaches us that the important thing is not to try to chase away delusive thoughts, but to recognize them. When we know they are illusions, we are naturally no longer pulled by them. Delusive thoughts are like bubbles on the surface of the sea. They appear solid, but dissolve upon touch. They are like shadows under the moon, visible, but cannot be grasped. Mental fabrications are the same. They appear when we lack mindfulness. They disappear when we return to right mindfulness. The important lesson that the story conveys is that if we look deeply into our own mind, we will see that most suffering is self-created. When we understand this, we learn to live lighter, letting go of the things that have troubled us for so long. Not because we avoid life, but because we clearly know that suffering doesn't come from others, but from how we see and interpret events. Realizing delusive thoughts is the first step to liberation. One who realizes delusive thoughts is like one who awakens. Once awake, the images in the dream no longer frighten us. If there are times in life when you feel a heavy heart but don't know why, Pause for a moment to listen to your mind. Ask whether what makes you suffer truly exists, or is just an illusion. Remember that if the mind recognizes, the mind will naturally let go. Just by breathing gently and returning to oneself, we will see fear shrink. Understanding the mind is how we are no longer deceived by it. Don't let unreal worries make us live in weariness. Don't let the stories in our heads be bigger than real life. Each day, dedicate some time to stillness, not to escape life, but to clear one's mind. When the mind is clear, everything is clear. When the mind is peaceful, life is naturally peaceful. That is also the journey that everyone must go through if they want to live a simple and happy life. Because when the mind clings less and has fewer delusive thoughts, we easily recognize joy in every small thing. We no longer chase after unreal things. We live in the present with what we have. We understand that happiness is not in solving all suffering, but in realizing that most suffering is self-created. Understanding the mind makes everything easy. Letting go of the mind makes everything light. There are evenings when sunlight touches the ground and then slowly recedes. We suddenly realize that this life is inherently not very long. People come and go, joyful, then meet, then lose, like a flowing river that never stops. In that cycle of impermanence, some people constantly chase after fame and profit, forgetting to look back at themselves. Others hold on to resentments and anger, unknowingly causing themselves so much suffering. But then, eventually, when a third or half of life has passed, people turn back to ask themselves why they are uneasy, why their hearts are restless, even though they lack nothing. It is from these questions that we seek the root of peace and realize that everything we encounter has its causes and conditions. The law of cause and effect, karma, is one of the simplest truths the Buddha taught. Whether one believes or not, whether one understands deeply or not, humans always live by that law every second. As the cause is given, so the effect is received. Like a shadow following a form, like an echo following a sound. In everyone's life, sometimes good things come gently, making us think it's luck. Sometimes unpleasant things come unexpectedly, making us think it's bad luck. But looking closely, we see that everything has a cause. Small things we do today can become big things in the future. Like a seed sown in the earth, though very tiny, will sprout, grow, and bear fruit over time. Therefore, the Buddha taught, do not neglect small good deeds. Do not commit small evil deeds. Because every action, no matter how small, sows a seed in one's life. In modern life, people constantly face many pressures. Work makes us stressed. Family matters trouble us. Relationships easily hurt us. Amidst all these things, not a few people think that only big matters affect their happiness. They believe that a small bad word, a slight unkind action, is insignificant. They believe that they only need to worry when they do something very wrong. However, that mindset is the reason why people lose their peace little by little without realizing it. Many people, when facing difficulties, often blame circumstances or others. Few look back to see what they have sown in the past days. It is not by chance that the ancients often said that misfortune does not come from heaven, but is created by the human heart. Nor is it by chance that the lives of some people are always gentle and blessed, as if protected. Everything has a root cause. One who understands karma is not someone who fears anything, but someone who knows that every action, every word, every thought sends out an energy. Good energy leads us to good places. Bad energy brings us into trouble. If the mind is clear, life is light. If the mind is dark, life is full of troubles. In life, many people think that doing good deeds must be something grand, like building temples, helping many people, or sacrificing a lot. But in reality, a good deed is sometimes just a small action, a small intention arising from kindness, helping an elderly person cross the road, yielding to someone in a hurry, saying a warm word to someone tired, forgiving a small mistake of another, or simply keeping the mind free from anger over things one cannot control. These things may seem small, but accumulate into great blessings. Conversely, seemingly insignificant things, like speaking harsh words that hurt others, being a little greedy for gain, a little selfish, a little lazy, a little angry, these small things are the seeds that cause future suffering. To understand this more clearly, the ancients told a folk tale called "The Drop That Overflows the Cup." The story goes that there were two men living in the same village. One was a little greedy, a little angry, and often did small, bad deeds. He often lied, often laughed at others' small pains, and often envied when seeing someone better than him. Every time he did something bad, he thought it was just a small, insignificant matter. One time, he deceived a neighbor out of money. Another time, he spoke insulting words to a woman. And another time, he hid a lost item and didn't return it. These incidents, when they happened, were quickly dismissed by him as small matters. He told himself, "The world is so big. Who would notice?" And so, these small, bad deeds accumulated over the years. One day, a major theft occurred in the village. People suspected him because he had done many shady things before. Although he said he didn't do it, no one believed him. Everyone remembered what he had done and thought this was just one big bad deed in his series of small bad deeds. In the end, no matter how he explained, everyone avoided him, no longer trusted him. His family faced many complications because of this. The things he once considered small had accumulated into a great misfortune, like the final drop of water that overflows the cup. In the same village, there was another man. This man was not wealthy, did not do anything grand, but his heart was kind, and he always did small, good deeds. He often helped the elderly when they went to the market, helped children who fell on the street, shared half his cake with someone hungry, reminded others to go the right way when he saw them lost. Outsiders might have seen these things as small, but he never took them lightly. He believed that every good deed, no matter how small, was nurturing his mind. Many years later, when he fell seriously ill, the entire village came to help him. Some worried about medicine, some worried about food, some stayed to care for him. He died peacefully, not wealthy in possessions, but rich in human kindness, because the small good deeds he accumulated had blossomed into blessings. That story clearly reflects the law of cause and effect in life. One who does small, evil deeds thinks it's nothing, but in reality, each of those deeds is like a drop of water added to a cup. One day, just one last drop will make the cup overflow. And when the cup overflows, that's often when we bear the greatest consequences. Conversely, one who does small good deeds every day is like sowing good seeds. These seeds, when the time is right, will sprout into good fortune and peace. The Buddha taught, "Do not abandon small good deeds, for even small drops of water can fill a container. Do not commit small evil deeds, for a small fire can burn down an entire forest." In the Anguttara Nikaya, he also taught that a wholesome mind brings peace, an unwholesome mind brings trouble. That teaching is not only true in spiritual practice, but also in daily life. One who keeps a wholesome mind sleeps peacefully. One who does wrong, even if small, often feels uneasy, fearful, and discontent. Peace is not in how much or how little a person has, but in whether their mind is directed towards wholesome or unwholesome things. In life, many people live complex lives because their hearts are full of fears. They fear being misunderstood by others, fear losing out, fear losing to others, fear losing reputation, fear losing benefits. But if one understands karma, those fears dissipate like morning mist before the sun. One who knows how to live correctly fears nothing. One who lives virtuously doesn't worry about the sky falling or the earth crumbling. Their mind is always light, because they know that what one sows, one will reap. No one can take away what they didn't sow, and no one can bring them what they don't deserve. When we understand karma, we naturally live simpler lives. We no longer dispute right and wrong excessively, no longer compete with life, no longer torment ourselves because others treat us poorly. We know that whoever does something will receive the consequences of that action. We don't hold on to things that don't belong to us. We just need to do our part fully. A person who lives simply is one who plants wholesome seeds every day, not doing anything grand, but doing small things with a great, wholesome heart. If they see someone suffering, they help. If they see someone sad, they console. If they see someone making a mistake, they gently remind. If they see someone in difficulty, they open their heart. These things nurture our mind and make our life seem to be covered in a layer of light. From the lesson of karma, the most important thing for people to remember is that every action carries a consequence. If we want a peaceful life, we must sow the seeds of peace. If we want joy, we must sow joy for others. If we want our life to be simple and light, we must keep a gentle and wholesome heart. Do not abandon small good deeds, because small good deeds are the foundation for a blessed life. Do not commit small evil deeds, because small evil deeds are the seeds that cause suffering. If you are worried about life, try to look back at what you have sown in the past. If you are facing difficulties, look at how you lived in previous years. Karma leaves nothing out. But the good news is that karma is always fair and gives us a chance to start over. Just by sowing wholesome seeds from today, life will gradually change for the better. Like rain watering dry soil, little by little, the soil will also bloom. And if one day you feel your heart is burdened, sit down and ask yourself what you can do right now to live better. Perhaps it's forgiving someone, perhaps smiling at a stranger, perhaps overlooking a small matter that troubles you, perhaps helping someone even for just a few minutes. These things not only help others, but also refresh our own soul. When we live virtuously, We don't need to seek peace. Peace comes naturally. When we live simply, we don't need to find happiness. Happiness naturally blossoms in our heart. Looking back at life, people often realize that most of what makes them tired is not due to major events, but due to small frictions in daily relationships. A wrong word, a slightly off action, an insignificant misunderstanding is enough to make someone's heart heavy. The interesting thing is that these things often pass quickly, but the emotions they leave behind are long-lasting. Thus, the ancients said that the world is impermanent, not only in birth and death, but also in the emotions that change daily. We might be joyful today, but just a few minutes later, we feel sad because of an unintentional remark from someone. We might be peaceful in the morning, but suddenly irritable in the afternoon due to a baseless argument. People living in that impermanent flow are easily swept away by small conflicts, losing their peace. If we look deeper into life, we will understand that one of the biggest reasons people are uneasy is a lack of harmony. From family to workplace, from friends to neighbors, if harmony cannot be maintained, it is very difficult for the mind to be peaceful. However, harmony does not arise naturally. It requires listening, humility, and a heart that knows how to yield a step to keep one's mind light and to protect others' hearts from being hurt. The Buddha taught that among the 4 principles for a stable life, there is the principle of living in harmony. If a person learns how to live in harmony, wherever they go, they bring peace. Conversely, if a person always argues right and wrong, always defends their ego, always wants to be the center, then wherever they go, they easily create conflict. Many people in life today face great pressure from relationships. Some are tired because their family constantly argues. Some are disheartened because colleagues don't understand each other. Some are sad because friends are sometimes too careless. Many others are heartbroken because loved ones speak harsh words. All these sufferings stem from people not understanding each other and being unwilling to be harmonious. Everyone thinks they are right. Everyone wants others to follow their will. That is why life becomes increasingly complicated. Many people have admitted that if they knew how to yield a little, let go of the ego, live simply and lightly, life would have far fewer storms. According to Buddhist teachings, harmony is not about accommodating every opinion of others, but about knowing how to adapt one's behavior according to conditions. A wise person always knows when to step forward, when to step back, when to remain silent, and when to speak. Such a person is not swept into trivial matters and loses inner purity. The Buddha once said that one who knows patience is like water, always soft, but able to overcome all obstacles. One who knows humility is like a leaf, light, but can fly far. One who knows how to listen is like earth, containing everything without resistance. Therefore, harmony is the connection between compassion and wisdom. In Buddhist stories, there is a very beautiful story about harmony passed down through many generations. It is the story of 3 venerable ones living together deep in the forest. These 3 had practiced together for a full 20 years without a single argument. People hearing this found it hard to believe, because living together for just a few days can lead to conflicts. Yet these 3 venerable ones lived together for so long and never disagreed with each other. When someone came to ask their secret, each of the three venerable ones answered in a different way, but all led to a common root. The first venerable one said that whenever something happened, he always told himself that if his brothers wanted something, he should let them do it. He never wanted to claim to be right, and always regarded others as himself. The second venerable one said that when he heard someone say something, he only paid attention to whether what they said was correct. If they were right, he gladly accepted. If they were wrong, he reminded himself that a practitioner should not cling to others' wrongs to create more troubles. The third venerable one said that he always kept his mind like the wind. He heard whatever was said, but kept nothing in his heart. The three venerable ones answered in three different ways, but in essence, it was simply humility, gentleness, and a heart full of compassion. That story helps listeners reflect on themselves and realize that what makes people easily argue is the mind's desire to win or lose. Just one word from someone that doesn't suit us, and we get angry. Just one action by someone that doesn't go our way, and we want to react. The bigger the ego in the mind, the more conflicts in life. And the noteworthy thing is that these conflicts stem from very small matters. People can get angry with each other over a cup, an unintentional remark, a slightly wrong action. And from those small things, they grow distant. Some people never speak to each other for an entire lifetime just because of one argument over right and wrong. When looking back, these sufferings are not worth sacrificing the peace of an entire lifetime. In the sutras, the Buddha once taught that living in harmony is one of the 7 treasures of a Buddhist. Harmonious in body, living together, harmonious in speech, without contention, and harmonious in mind, sharing joy, are the fundamental principles for maintaining peace in family and community. Harmonious in body means living together in one place without causing trouble for each other. Harmonious in speech means speaking gently so as not to create conflict. Harmonious in mind means not clinging in the mind, but rejoicing in others' joy. Just by practicing these 3 things, practitioners and lay people alike can maintain harmony. When deeply understanding the art of living in harmony, we realize that the important thing is not who is right or wrong, but in keeping one's mind peaceful. If we keep trying to be right, trying to defend our viewpoint at all costs, the more we contend, the more we lose. We lose inner peace, lose joy, and lose even precious relationships. People often say that when angry, we easily say things we regret. But one who practices understands that humility is true strength. Sometimes stepping back is not defeat, but to protect one's heart from being hurt. One of the things that makes it difficult for people to live in harmony is too large an ego. The ego makes them always want things their way. The ego makes them think they are the center. The ego makes them feel offended by just a small matter. But if one lives long enough, one will realize that ego brings nothing good. It's like a stone in the heart. The more you hold it, the heavier it gets. When you put it down, you feel much lighter. One who knows how to let go of the ego can listen to others. One who knows how to listen can understand what others need. And once understood, conflicts naturally disappear. The art of living in harmony is not about trying to please everyone, but about keeping one's heart soft so as not to be hurt by trivial matters. In a family, if parents know how to listen to their children, spouses know how to yield a little, siblings know how to love each other more, then that family will always be full of laughter. At work, if colleagues know how to respect each other, share with each other, see each other's good points instead of scrutinizing flaws, then that workplace will always be easy to breathe in. In the community, if people know how to greet each other gently, help each other with small tasks, treat each other with sincerity, then that place will always be filled with human kindness. Applying the teachings of the three Venerable Ones to life, we will see that yielding is a way to keep one's mind spacious. Enduring is a way to cultivate virtue. Loving is a way to make life more beautiful. These three things, though simple, are the root of harmony. If everyone wants to win, no one truly wins. If everyone yields a little, everyone feels lighter. If everyone accepts a little loss for others, this life will have much less suffering. If everyone knows how to love, then wherever they go will become a peaceful place. The lesson that the three Venerable Ones passed down is not just for practitioners, but for all of us in daily life. It is learning how to live varli amidst a life full of conflicts. The deeper we understand the word harmony, the more peaceful we feel amidst a world full of changes. When we no longer want to compete, we conquer ourselves. When we no longer argue right and wrong, we gain clarity of mind. When we know how to be humble, life opens many doors we never thought of. If one day you feel life is too tiring because of relationships, try to sit down, breathe deeply, and ask yourself if what you are trying to hold on to is truly worth it. Is it worth losing inner peace just for a word? Is it worth losing a loved one just for a small matter? Is it worth exhausting oneself just for one's ego? Looking deeply, you will realize that most of those conflicts are not worth keeping in your heart. When you can let go, the mind will be at peace. When at peace, you will know how to face life gently. Remember that harmony is not weakness. Harmony is the strength of one who understands oneself, the maturity of one who knows how to live, the cultivation of one who knows how to guard their heart. When we know how to live in harmony, we not only maintain peace for ourselves, but also bring peace to others. Looking back at the past, people are often amazed to see that the things they once considered important can one day become trivial. A sorrow thought to be insurmountable eventually fades. A joy thought to be eternal also withers. A person once deeply loved eventually drifts away. A person once greatly angered is eventually forgotten. Everything changes over time. That is the nature of impermanence. When we understand impermanence, we know that nothing in life is fixed, including ourselves. Yet the paradox is that in this stream of change, people always try to hold on to one thing that cannot be held, the ego. And it is because we cling too tightly to the ego that most of the suffering we carry on our shoulders today originates from ourselves. According to Buddhist teachings, there are 4 fundamental characteristics that cause the mind to cling and generate troubles: self, person, sentient being, and lifespan. Among them, the concept of self is the largest root. Self is the notion of self, the feeling that one is important, must be recognized, must be right. People suffer because they think everyone must treat them as they expect. They suffer because they think things must happen as they wish. They suffer because one contrary word hurts them. When clinging to the ego, we are like someone wearing a garment that is too tight, always getting stuck, hurting anyone it touches. When letting go of the ego, we are like taking off that heavy coat, and the heart immediately feels light. In modern life, much suffering stems from the mindset of seeing oneself as the center. Many people feel hurt just because someone's words don't align with their wishes. Many people feel angry just because others don't do things the way they want. Some lose appetite and sleep just because someone doesn't understand them. Others feel stuck in life just because they are not praised as they wish. This makes people more sensitive and vulnerable than ever before. When we bring an issue into the ego, we inflate it. When we consider ourselves important, we easily think that others are doing wrong to us. From that, disputes, resentment, and sorrow appear endlessly. According to the Buddha, non-self is not losing oneself, but understanding that oneself is not the center of the universe. An egoless person is one who knows that everything arises dependently. Nothing exists independently. An egoless mind is an open mind. When the mind opens, the world also expands. When the mind is narrow, everything becomes a problem. Non-self is removing the wall between us and everyone else. When we don't think we are the best, we are more empathetic. When we don't cling to our own perspective, we are more open to learning. That is also why a contented person is often one with little ego. Because they are content, they don't demand. Because they don't demand, they don't suffer. Because they don't suffer, their heart is light. To understand non-self more deeply, the ancients told a famous Zen story about Zen master Nanin. One day, a scholar came to the Zen master to inquire about the Dharma. This scholar was known for his wide knowledge, having read many books and being good at debate, but despite much understanding, his heart was not at peace. When he sat down, Nanin did not rush to say anything, but went to pour tea. The Zen master poured tea into the scholar's cup. The cup was full, but he continued to pour. The tea overflowed, ran down the table, and then onto the ground. The scholar, seeing this, exclaimed, "The cup is full, master. You cannot pour any more." At that moment, Nanin gently said, "Your mind is like that cup, already full of knowledge, ego, and stubborn opinions. When your heart is already so full, how can it receive the Dharma?" That story makes listeners reflect on themselves. In life, people are often like the scholar's teacup. When the mind is full of ego, there is no room for anything new. We don't accept advice because we think we are right. We don't listen to others because we think we already understand. We don't receive life gently because everything is compared to our own views. It is because the mind is full that the heart is heavy. When letting go of the ego, we don't lose ourselves, but open up space to receive good things. The Buddha taught that the ego is like an illusion created by the mind. As long as we cling to the self, everything will revolve around that ego. If anyone goes against our will, we get angry. If anyone acts according to our will, we are happy. But that joy is also fragile, because just one small thing that doesn't align with our wishes, and the heart is immediately hurt. The Buddha once said that among the 5 aggregates, no aggregate is self. The body is not self, because it changes daily. the mind is also not self, because as soon as one thought ends, another arises. Emotions are not self, because they come and go. What is called self is just an aggregation of many elements. When we understand that, we no longer cling tightly to the ego. In human psychology, the ego is the cause that deepens suffering. Someone insults us with a word. We hurt not because of the word, but because the ego is touched. Someone doesn't care about us as we expect. We are sad not because of the action, but because the ego is not satisfied. Someone is better than us. We are envious also because of the ego, wanting ourselves to be better than others. It is the ego that makes us always compare, always worry, always fear loss. When we can let go of the ego, we are no longer pulled by those emotions. We are happy when we see others succeed. We have compassion when we see others make mistakes. We calmly learn more when we find ourselves lacking. An egoless person is not someone without emotions. They still feel joy, sadness, love, and anger. But they know that all are just temporary phenomena in the mind. They don't let emotions lead them. They don't let the ego make them act wrongly. That is why an egoless person is often loved by others, because they are peaceful and dignified. They don't place their ego too high, so they easily get along with everyone. That is also why they suffer less. When the mind is broad, all matters are small. When the mind is narrow, all matters are big. The Responsive Buddhist Teachings channel reminds us that in the Dhammapada, the Buddha once taught that the greatest victory of a person is not conquering others, but conquering oneself. And to conquer oneself, one must conquer the ego. The Buddha also taught that a wise person is one who knows how to let go of what doesn't belong to them. The ego is what we cling to, but it actually doesn't belong to us. It is merely a mental construct. When we realize that, we suffer much less. A practitioner can spend their entire life training themselves in this. Lay people, if they know how to apply it, can also change their lives. When we understand non-self, we will look at everything with different eyes. When someone goes against our will, instead of getting angry, we know that they are also living according to their own perspective. When someone insults us instead of hurting, we know that their words only reflect their mind, not our nature. When someone is better than us, instead of being envious, we know that everyone has their own karma and blessings, and no one is exactly alike. When someone doesn't meet our expectations, we know that everyone has their own path. From that, we live lighter, and our hearts have fewer ripples. A contented person is precisely one with little ego. Because they are content, they don't demand. Because they don't demand, they don't feel troubled. Because they don't feel troubled, their mind is light. A contented person always feels life is simple, because they don't set too high standards for themselves or for life. They don't need others to praise them to be happy. They don't need everything to be perfect to be happy. They look at life naturally, and when they are content, the ego naturally shrinks. When the ego shrinks, life naturally expands. The lesson from Zen Master, Nanin's teacup, is not just for spiritual seekers, but for everyone who wants to live in peace. A full mind cannot receive anything more. An empty mind can receive light. When the ego can be let go, our heart will feel like a new cup, ready to receive good things. When the mind is empty, we learn more easily, listen more deeply, love others more, and forgive more easily. When the ego shrinks, wisdom opens up. When wisdom opens up, we know how to live lightly. If one day you feel you are hurting because of someone, ask yourself where your ego is being touched. If one day you feel tired because of a relationship, see what you are clinging to. If you feel a heavy heart when someone doesn't follow your will, remember that non-self is the root of freedom. Just let go a little, and the mind will be light. When the mind is light, life is also light. Practicing non-self is not something that can be done in one day. It requires continuous self-observation. Every time you are angry, ask yourself which ego is being stirred. Every time you are sad, see what you are demanding. Every time you blame, see what you are clinging to. And every time you feel peaceful, recognize that that is when the ego settles down. Just like that, little by little, you are healing yourself. Non-self is the key that opens the door to happiness. Not a grand or distant happiness, but the simple happiness of a peaceful mind, a light heart, good sleep, a calm meal, the ability to smile even if life is not perfect. When letting go of the ego, we have more space in our hearts to contain love. When we can contain love, we don't need to seek happiness anywhere else. Happiness naturally appears right within our own breath. There are moments in life when we sit very quietly and suddenly realize how quickly so many years have passed, like a gust of wind. So many unfinished plans. So much weariness has settled in the heart, and so many troubles once kept us awake at night. Yet when looking deeply into the nature of life, we deeply realize that everything is impermanent. People change, hearts change, circumstances constantly shift, and this world continuously moves according to every beat of conditions. Impermanence is not meant to frighten us, but to remind us that life is too short to cling to unnecessary things. Life is only beautiful when we are gentle with ourselves. That is when we understand why simplicity is not a lack, but a kind of inner wealth. Amidst the myriad chaos of the world, minds that know contentment are always the freest. Looking back at all the sections we've covered, from the myriad forms of suffering in life to how to live contentedly, then live harmoniously, live with letting go, and understand non-self, all lead us to a common point: inner peace. Not the peace of someone who has nothing left to worry about, but the peace of someone who has learned to face life with a calm mind. In the Buddha's teachings, he once said that the root of all suffering often does not come from circumstances, but from the clinging in our heart. When we want too much, we find life heavy. When we cling too tightly, we find life tiring. When we see ourselves as the center of everything, we find life full of conflicts. Everyone carries within them countless expectations, so much ego, so many unspoken sorrows. But each person can also open the door to liberate themselves with just one choice: live simpler, live lighter, live more contentedly. The responsive Buddhist teachings channel reminds us that in Buddhist teachings, happiness is not something distant. It is not in the races to win or lose, nor in great wealth or fame. Happiness is sometimes just a peaceful morning, a simple meal, a little love from a family member, a kind word, or just a deep breath to bring oneself back to the present. We often constantly seek great things outside, forgetting that a peaceful mind is the true home. A contented person is not someone who has little, but someone who is not bound by desires. A person who lives simply is not someone who lacks, but someone who chooses to let go of things that don't help their soul grow. There is a very simple story that anyone who hears it feels lighter in heart. The story tells of an old man living in a small house on a mountainside. He didn't have much money, and the belongings in his house were very few, just enough. Yet anyone who visited him found him always smiling very peacefully. Someone asked why his simple life made him so happy. He simply replied that he had enough just like that. He added that what makes people unhappy is not having little, but wanting more than what one truly needs. When desires exceed ability, we get tired. When we compare ourselves to others, we become sad. When we are not content with reality, we suffer. His smile was the smile of one who no longer chases things beyond reach. The Buddha in the Anguttara Nikaya taught that a contented person is the wealthiest person in the world. Because a contented person is never poor. They are not poor in love because their mind is not competitive. They are not poor in happiness because their mind has no delusive desires. They are not poor in peace because their mind is not swept away by storms. A contented person is one who walks through life with very light footsteps. They are not swept away by the crowd, not pulled by gossip, not tormented by comparisons with each other. They are kind to others, but also kind to themselves. They understand that life is inherently short and not worth wasting on trivialities. In the process of living, everyone has experienced times when their heart felt heavy. Sometimes it's due to struggling work. Sometimes it's because relationships are not as expected. Sometimes it's because of small family matters or illusory societal expectations. These pressures make us think that to be happy, we must achieve something greater. But then when we are too tired, we realize that what we need is not more, but less. Less worry, less anger, less self-torment, less attention to praise and criticism, less regret for the past, less fear of the future, less self-blame, less self-doubt, less of what weighs down our hearts. Only when we know how to lessen do we truly gain more peace, more strength, more inner freedom. Many people think that simple living means giving up big dreams, but that is not so. Simple living is keeping one's mind free from entanglement in unnecessary things. Everyone has the right to dream, the right to strive, but don't exhaust yourself just to prove something others. Don't let your heart shatter just by chasing after perfection that doesn't exist. Don't let your life's time pass by in meaningless struggles. Simple living is choosing what is truly important to oneself and letting go of what only disturbs us. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha once taught that if the mind is without greed, it is light. If the mind is without anger, it is cool. If the mind is without delusion, it is clear. These three are the foundation of happiness. A contented person is one who reduces greed. A person who lives simply is one who lets go of anger. A person who understands impermanence and non-self is one who clearly sees delusion. When the three poisons gradually dissipate, the mind naturally becomes peaceful, not from outside, but from within one's own heart. To conclude the journey of this video, perhaps the most important thing is for each person to look back at their own life. Ask yourself, what in life is burdening your heart? What makes you uneasy? What makes you tired? And what are you holding on to that you could have let go of long ago? Life is lived only once, and the present is always more precious than we think. Live so that each night when you lie down, your heart can truly feel light. You don't need to be rich to be happy. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You don't need to win everything to feel valuable. What you need is just a kind heart, a contented mind, a simplicity in viewing life. All these things will open up great freedom within you. A contented person is always one who conquers oneself. Before concluding, the Responsive Buddhist Teachings channel invites you to practice 1 minute of peaceful breathing to let the mind settle after a long journey of listening. Sit up straight, relax both shoulders, and gently bring your attention to your breath. When inhaling, invite peace into your mind. When exhaling, let all worries flow out with your breath. Inhale deeply, once to feel yourself being supported by life. Exhale to let go of things no longer needed. Inhale to feel content. Exhale to feel life is light. Every breath that passes is a gift that helps us return to ourselves.